Pick up your gear and open your chests. Throw on your armor and head out on a quest. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. On the Sword Coast, your allies will help with blades and bows and magic as well. Hey, hey, heroes on their way. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, get you all out there. Idle champions, you will say it again. Idle champions. From Waterdeep to Icelandair, head out to Chull or Shadowfell, hey, hey. Together we stay. Walk to the monsters, walk to the boss, walk to the right, it's never a loss, hey, hey. Bad guys to slay. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, get you all out there. Idle champions, you will say it again. Idle champions.
Hello, everybody. We are back with another Gaarawarr's Guide, the tutorial show. We return to an evergreen topic. Sort of. Today's topic is the Companions of the Hall. Companions of the Hall. It is the year of our Lord Moradin, 2024. So we're covering the Companions of the Hall again. This is going to be kind of how they work in their current iteration. They did have some of them. Well, all of them got slightly adjusted. Some more so than others. When they had a season, it was called Champions of Mithril Hall, which confused a lot of people because they are the Companions of the Hall as an affiliation. That was a whole different thing. Yeah. So we're gonna cover the Companions of the Hall. In doing so, we'll talk about some other champions. That work well with them, including one that's actually not a companion, but designed to work. Oh, I'm allergic to talking about non-companions, apparently. But there's one champion who will get an honorable mention as actually having an ability that is an affiliation ability of the Companions of the Hall, but is not a member of the Companions. Only champion currently in the game that has that. And we'll talk about why they have that. So yeah, helping me out today in the production booth, Jay. Say hello to Jay, everybody. Jay's gonna be grabbing questions from chat as long as you put question : like it says down below. Yeah, front of your question. All right. So let's dive in. Oh, hey, the code today is look, folks. Bruenor is leader. You can just copy paste it in or switch it over to 16 characters. I don't care what these anti-dwarf sentiment people try to tell you. Bruenor is the leader of the Companions of the Hall. Literally, the Companions of the Hall are these 5 champions you see on screen. And that is it. And this is because this is the group that Bruenor gathered and convinced and maybe tricked into going to find the lost home of the Battlehammer clan, Mithril Hall, and retake it from the dragon that had driven his family out centuries before. Probably centuries. No, it was a long time. This is it. This is why they were called the Companions of the Hall. They're the group that went to find Mithril Hall. No one else. To be clear. To be clear. Everyone else that is Companions adjacent arrived in the stories either as enemies or friends after they refound and retook Mithril. Okay, yeah. Spoiler alert on a book series that's, is it like 4 decades old now? At least 3 decades old now. Because you find this out in the very first set of books, folks. Come on. All right, so let's talk about Bruenor. I know that's not a thing Disney likes to do, but... Oh, wait. No, that's Bruno. The Companions of the Hall. Look, even in the affiliation... If they ever change this, I'm going to get so mad. Bruenor, Catti-brie, Drizzt, Regis, and Wulfgar. Bruenor, male, shield dwarf. Because they differentiate these things. Fighter. Neutral good alignment. Role. Support. Man, I gotta tell you. I've been playing this game now for 7 years. As of like the 19th, I think. That was my 7-year anniversary playing Idle Champions. And when I play it the first time and open up Bruenor and I see, wait, he's not a tank? What? Look, I get it. Look, he's ducked out like a tank. He's even got a shield. I get the confusion, folks. Even I was confused. But he's not a tank. And even though he has an ability, we'll discuss in a bit, that gives him, that's a self-damage boost, he's also not a DPS. He is a support champion. Main attack, Slice. He just attacks the closest enemy with his axe. One enemy. Ultimate Bash. He delivers a devastating blow to the closest enemy. I mean, it's just he jumps out and he smacks it with his shield. Boom! Well, his shield's axe. But it's just one hit. He's a one-hit wonder, folks. The main ability is Inspired, so increases the damage of Bruenor. Well, his first ability. This is his self-damage. Increases the damage of Bruenor by 100% for each adjacent champion. The only time you ever need this is in the tutorial. After that, you can ignore it. Because his damage doesn't matter. He is not the DPS. Okay? This is designed specifically to get you through the tutorial. Arguably, if they'd made him a tank support, he'd have been fine. And could have gotten through the tutorial just fine. But he needed this because he is doing damage for you to get you through the tutorial. But then after that, this is pointless. Absolutely pointless. Actual main functional support ability, Rally. Everything is around Rally, folks. This is what he does. He rallies people. He increases the damage of champions in the same column as him. That's it. This is a positional formation ability. I have him up here just because I want to confuse people. But you put him in the same column. Like if Drizzt is our DPS, and in this formation he will be, you would put him in the same column as Drizzt. That's it. That's all he's got. It's same column buff. Okay. He has 2 spec choices. They both buff rally. And the thing to keep in mind here is Shield Master versus Battle Master. What you're looking for here, well, I'll just say this straight up. Shield Master can potentially be a higher buff. It boosts rally 10% for 10 seconds, so it's a limited duration. Whenever a champion within 2 slots of Bruenor is attacked, it stacks up to 25 times. So that means it can buff up to 250% damage. As long as your tank, that's kind of the most, you know, the most use case and highest use case scenarios, it was they're within 2 slots of the tank line, is taking damage. So it only kicks in once the tanks start to get attacked. And it only stays active when they're getting attacked. Otherwise, it's not doing anything. Okay? Battle Master is just straight up doubles rally. It's 100%. That's a double effect, the rally effect, no matter what. When you're first starting off, Battle Master. Anytime you're going to be using Bruenor and you're not, and you don't think, like, you think you're just going to be cruising with lots of damage and you're never going to actually take damage to do an adventure variant, Battle Master. Otherwise, Shield Master is doing nothing. Shield Master only matters if you're going to be tanking enemies and you're going to be tanking more than 10. Right? Your tank can, if you're far enough into the game, because I'm talking, he's your starter champion, so I want to talk to brand new players. If your tank can't live through tanking 10 enemies, you need to be Battle Master, because this doesn't beat this until you hit 11 enemies. Okay, if your tank falls over with 5 enemies on them, you should be in Battle Master. All right, we're just gonna go there. Honestly, so often early on, that's all you need. All you need is Battle Master. All right. Sometimes this is an example of how sometimes in this game people can get so mad right now. Choosing the mathematically strongest choice, making the mathematically strongest choice, isn't always in your favor. You gotta actually think about it. When does that mathematic strength come into play? And is that useful for you in your scenario? All right. Dwarven Glory. This increases the effective rally for each dwarf other than Bruenor in the formation. I really wish we could build around this one day. Hand to my god Moradin. Moradin is the dwarven god, for anyone confused. A dwarven god. The main dwarven god. One day, I will be able to build a full dwarf party that makes sense. One day. Oh god, CNE, please. Before this game shuts down. One day, I would like to build a full dwarven party. and run Dwarven Glory. The big one, though, the real big one that you really do want to build around doesn't come until you get to Bruenor to level 1000, which is up there, right? Your formation gains 1 Mithril Hall stack. Told you at the start of this. Companions of Hall are about Mithril Hall. Bruenor increases the effective rally by 100% for each Mithril Hall stack you have, stacking multiplicatively. This is your clue. This is your clue that each of the Companions of the Hall are going to give you a Mithril Hall stack. This is your clue, right? What's even better, and we'll talk about this in a minute, is they have feats for it too. And each of them is going to have an ability like this that builds off Mithril Hall stacks. And this is the build around. This is what you're going to want, you know. You're going to run a full Mithril Hall formation, which these 5 champions and one other. And I said that time I said Mithril Hall, notice. because you're building Mithril Hall stacks. You're going to run a full Mithril Hall formation, maximize your stacks, these 5 and one other, and you're going to want the feats for it. And when you do, they become a solid group. They become a really solid group. Not amazing, but a really solid group. They kind of can't get amazing because they've got, they've got Brunor as a core champion, and they've got Dritz as an evergreen. The other 3 are event champions. Just the way CNE does their kind of balance is they don't want core and evergreens to be super OP. Core especially not. Evergreens can be really strong. Okay. All right. So Mithril Hall stacks. These are the big deals. Item wise, look, it's damage all champions. It's Dwarven Glory, Rally, Dwarven Glory, which is basically useless currently. Rally, ultimate attack, ultimate cooldown. Let's look at feats. We got damage of all champions. You got Rally, of course. I mean, this is the big deal. Dwarven Glory, you can ignore it. I've got it in just because one day, I hope. We got a Wisdom feat, which I think it was to qualify for Narak at the time. We got a Strength feat, which is for something that needs 18 strength. 18 strength. Variant or champion. Charisma +1. I think that's Zariel. Patron Zariel. He does have a defensive duelist feat, which is for Overwhelm. And I want to call this out specifically because there are a lot of people that talk trash in this community about me putting Brunor in a guide where I'm like, oh, put him in your tank line. Because in the situation in that guide, you have like a tank and you need to split damage up amongst multiple champions, or you're not going to give yourself the best chance to survive. And he does have this feat, which will let him go up to 10 overwhelm, so he doesn't take increased damage until you have 10. And he is a champion. It is not called out anywhere here. This is the deep lore, folks. He is what CNE at one point in time called a bruiser. And a bruiser is a champion that exists between a squishy and a tank. So they have more starting health, and they have some kind of feature, and in this case it's defensive duelist as a feat, that can allow them in desperate times to stand in the front line. It is not something that they support much anymore, but this is why this feat is here. Yeah. Just so you understand. Please don't use him as a tank. Unless you absolutely have no other choice. Okay. All right, and you can see he's got, I need to buy this one. Or I need to assign it instead of the charisma score, probably. I feel like he's missing one. He should have a 1 and a 2, shouldn't he? I feel like there's supposed to be a 1 and a 2. Maybe we'll remind them on Dev Insights. So right now, with him in my formation leveled up to, because you don't get your Mithril Hall stack from the champion until you get into the ability. He's contributing 3. We have a total of 9. It means that there's other people with some feats in already, right? So we're going to try to ramp that up as much as possible before we're done here. All right, next up, we're going to bounce around in this formation a bit, and we're actually going to move. We're going to move. Let's talk about the actual tank. Talk about the actual tank for the Companions of the Hall. It's Wulfgar. Wulfgar is a male human barbarian, chaotic good, tanking and support. See, it says it right there. Starts off. Does he start off? Yeah, starts off with a 20 overwhelm. Important to know, because we're talking about lore as well here. Wulfgar is the adopted son of Brunor Battlehammer. He is accepted in the Battlehammer clan as a dwarf, which is why he has a dwarf glitch feat where he counts as this is how they got that in the game. I really wish they'd just given him a feat that just made him a dwarf, like a clan battlehammer feat, because he's a part of it. But anyway, he has a dwarf glitch feat. He also has a dwarf skin where he literally is just a little beefy little dwarf guy, and usually I run him in this skin because dwarf. I am a big fan of Daddy Wolfgar, aka Mythic Wolfgar skin. He's got some solid skins, but usually I'm running him as the dwarf. So Wolfgar, son of Brunor. He has another. He's a son. He's son of something else, and I can't remember off the top of my head. But Wolfgar, son of Beornigar, but he is an adopted son of Brunor. He has a passive ability. Critical hit gives him a 20% critical hit chance base. And Citizen of Icewind Dale. So he is from the Frozen North. Yeah. So the way this reads is critical hit 20%, and his crits also stun all affected enemies by 5 seconds. His base attack smashes the nearest group of enemies. So he has an AoE stun off of a crit. Important to know. This is an important thing to know when trying to build out a full formation with him as your tank, okay? Additionally, Wolfgar can be used in any Icewind Dale campaign adventure or variant, even if he would not normally be available to be used due to variant or patron restrictions. It's basically anywhere he can go. He's a citizen of Icewind Dale. He can go anywhere in Icewind Dale. He is what I like to call a party crasher. Basically, he didn't get an invite, but he's going anyway. Okay, there are a number of this type of champion in the game, and he is also something I call a party bus, where he takes a lot of friends with him. But we'll get to that. His ultimate is Aegis Fang. It's a ranged attack. Shouting the name of his deity, Wolfgar tosses his Warhammer Aegis Fang at the most distant enemy, dealing damage to and stunning all enemies in a line for 10 seconds. Here's kind of what it looks like. Boom. Chuck comes right back to him. It's basically Mjolnir, right? Lore-wise, this Aegis Fang was crafted by Brunor. And a very, a once-in-a-lifetime legendary artifact crafted by Brunor and given to his son. King of the Elk tribe is his health share, so all other champions get 25% of Wolfgar's max health. Clangeddon's Will, anytime an enemy is stunned, and remember, he stuns on crit, as well as with his ult. Wolfgar increases the damage of all champions in the formation by 50%, stacking multiplicatively, capping at 50 stacks and lasting until the area changes. So this is an area ramp. So the longer it takes you to pass an area, the more he's going to start ramping up damage. Okay, these are big deals. So getting him to crit consistently can make this ramp up very quickly and get you a lot of bonus damage on areas. Okay. Dumathoin's Will, if Wolfgar stuns a boss, he gains a temp HP shield based on the boss's percent health remaining. If it's 100% health remaining, he gets a 200% max HP shield. Okay, this is where this shield came from. So he is a self-shielder, but only on bosses, and only if he stuns the boss. So again, getting his crit chance up real high, or ulting on the boss, potentially, because that's going to stun, sets off a survivability shield. Okay. Hammer of the Hall. Your formation gains 1 Mithril Hall stack. Wolfgar increases the damage bonus of Clangeddon's Will by 100% for each Mithril Hall stack you have, stacking multiplicatively. It's always great when we see multiplicatively stacking abilities, and this one feeds into another multiplicatively stacking ability. Again, this is boosting the party damage. Right? Smash and Grab. If Wolfgar attacks an armor-based enemy, but doesn't remove a piece of the armor, which he shouldn't, because he's the tank. I mean, at low levels he will, right? But when you actually need him to start tanking and buffing, this kicks in. He then increases the damage of all champions in the formation by 200%. So triple damage, stacking multiplicatively up to 5 times, resetting on an area change. Okay? So when you're dealing with armor-based enemies, he has an ability that can get you more damage for a limited time while dealing with that enemy. Alright, all the spec choices. Heavy Blows, Flag Bearer, or Moradin's Will. So Heavy Blows just increases all champions' crit hit chances by 10%. So this will get him up to 30, plus anyone else in the party goes up 10%. So he's, roughly then becomes a 1 in 3 chance to stun, and stunning is good for him, right? So on his own, he can feed his crit chance a little bit just by this spec choice. And his party. There are people in this party that like crits. Okay, we'll get there. So this can be a good for an affiliation. Okay. Flagbearer, he increases the effective Clan Geddon's Will. Remember, that's that on area, like in area ramping ability based off stuns. So increases the effect of it by 100%. And he only loses 50% of the stacks when he changes areas. So this is a good way to boost that damage even more. If you can get him up to stunning, like, on every hit, without needing this, which we'll talk about, because we can get close enough, if not all the way there. Flagbearer is great, because then you're getting even more damage off that, and you're not losing stacks in between. Like, you're not losing all the stacks in between. So you're carrying that damage, which helps you move through higher areas faster. Moradin's Will is the party bus. Okay, so this increases the damage of the Companions of the Hall champions by 100%, which is just a double damage feature. It's not huge. Okay. And all of the Companions Hall champions are available to be used if Icewind Dale is the current campaign, even if they do not currently qualify. Okay. So, this is the party bus. He is a party crasher. He goes everywhere in Icewind Dale. And he can choose this spec to bring the entire Companions group with you. Which means you have, if you build them out, you have a guaranteed 5 champion set that can go in every adventure and variant in Icewind Dale. And that's real nice. Like, having a consistent group to get you through stuff can be real nice. Icewind Dale is a medium difficulty campaign. That's what I consider it now at this point. The champions you bring along are gonna need to be solid by that point. And we'll talk about how you can do that. But yeah, so this allows for that. Well, I'm going to go Flag Bearer here because we're going to be... I know how I'm building him out in this. And I want that. Okay. I am planning ahead. Is that everything? Yeah, he gets all of his stuff by that point. Okay. Item-wise, damage all champions' health. You want that on a tank. Clan Geddon's Will, Smash and Grab. So this is going to boost that armor destructive ability, right? Ultimate attack, ultimate cooldown. Feats, damage of all champions, health. That's a big deal, right? Here's that dwarf feat. That dwarf feat also buffs Clan Geddon's Will for each dwarf in the formation. Again, when we get more dwarves, this will be cooler. Clan Geddon's Will. Smash and Grab. So there's feats for when you are dealing with lots of armored enemies. There's feats for that, and that's great. Great. Boosting the damage so you can get rid of even more, get rid of armor easier. Armor is such a major just stop sign in this game, so I like that. He does have a single overwhelm feat. He needs more of the enemy, please. And he has 2 Mithril Hall feats. We're just going to go full damage here. This is why I said I think Bruner's missing one. He needs a 1 and a 2. A 1, 2, 1, 2. All right. All right, so he's set up for this, where we're just going to max out our stacks here. Up next, we're going to talk about Drizzt Do'Urden. Drizzt is who all the books are named after. It's the Legend of Drizzt series. Fun fact, Drizzt was not meant to be the core character of that series. It was gonna be Wulfgar. And then Salvatore realized while writing, oh no, this is all about Drizzt. This is a Drizzt thing, isn't it? And changed everything. And now we have a book series that's going on decades. I got them all over there. They're real good. All right, Drizzt, male drow elf. ranger in this game. He is a ranger. I want to be clear, his class, like, he started off as a fighter, which is why but look, and then he was a ranger for a while, and now in the modern books, he's also a monk. He's a multi-classer, but this is a snapshot. In Idle Champions, you get snapshots, and this is when he was a ranger. Lawful good, he is the DPS, pure DPS. He is in your formation, he needs to be the one doing the damage. Otherwise, he doesn't need to be there. His base attack over here, you'll see, is changing. He's got 2 melee attacks, and it's based off each of the swords that he's carrying, the scimitars. So there's Twinkle, and there's a dual wield where he hits with both. And then there's Icing Death, right? So Icing Death, he attacks the nearest enemy with Icing Death. Twinkle, he attacks the nearest enemy with Twinkle. So 1 hit, right? And then the Twin, see if we can get it to rotate again. Come on. Come on. Any day now, I'm trying to explain to people. There we go. Attacks the nearest enemy with both. You knew it was coming, folks. I just wanted you to see it while I said it. Whirl of Steel is the ultimate attack. So he attacks in a Whirl of Steel, continuing his attack until his blades don't kill an enemy in 1 hit. So as long as he can one-shot everything with the damage of his ultimate, he'll just keep going. Great wave clear when you do have a high bud later on, because he'll just, if you can build up a wave and then just clear it all out. And you have to for his achievement. All right, base his passive ability is crit hit. So just like Wolfgar, he starts off at a 20% crit chance. Guinevere is his companion, not a pet. Companion. Its attacks have a 25% chance to summon Guinevere to fight by his side for 30 seconds. Guinevere attacks twice and deals the same damage as Drizzt, but also causes a 20-second bleed. So damage over time. Every second, they're gonna bleed. I believe. Well, regardless, it might just be a mark. Do they just use it as? I don't think it does damage. I think it's just a debuff. And stuff happens. That's right. That's what happens. I just want it to be a bud-based play. I want Drizzt to be super strong. Let's just be honest. Icing Death. So different things happen when he attacks with different scimitars. And this is why his attacks rotate. Icing Death. When Drizzt attacks an enemy bleeding from Guinevere with Icing Death, he does more damage. And his next base attack cooldown is reduced by 50%. So this, once you get there, we're not going to see it here because everything's dying in 1 hit. But once you start triggering this, his attack speed cuts in half. Just on its own. So he starts attacking faster and faster. Twinkle. When Drizzt attacks an enemy bleeding from Guinevere with Twinkle, he does AoE damage to nearby enemies, so this gives him wave clear, because he doesn't have any. He's a single target DPS. Twinkle, with the bleed from Guinevere, gives him AoE wave clear. And the original target has a 50% chance to miss their next attack. This is a big survivability tool on bosses, especially like bosses that AoE your entire party. Like dragons and casters. He basically will make it just completely miss. Instead of wrecking your party. 50-50 chance. Coin toss. But hey. Better than nothing, right? Companions of the Hall. Your formation gains 1 Mithril Hall stack. Increase Drizzt's damage by 400%. So 5x damage multiplier. For each Mithril Hall stack you have. Stacking multiplicatively. This is what makes Drizzt do damage in this game. He doesn't just get it on his own. You gotta have stacks. You gotta have as many stacks as you can give him. When you get him on his own, you put him in a formation, underwhelming. Stack him up with a lot of Mithril Hall stacks, he starts becoming a solid damage dealer, not OP. Again, he's an evergreen champion. The very first evergreen champion you unlock. So, not OP, but solid. Alright. Back choices. Remember how I had a little rant at the beginning of the stream? Where I'm like, Brunor is the leader. Look, it's even the code, folks. Because he is. Because he is. And one day, CNE will give Bruno the respect he deserves. And will change this spec name. Because Drizzt is not the leader. Drizzt is not the leader. So I'm just going to call this left spec and right spec because I refuse to disrespect Brunor. Left spec increases Drizzt damage by 200% for each Companions of the Hall champion in the formation. So if you're running a Companions of the Hall formation, guess which one you want to use. Okay. They could just call this one the Legend of Drizzt, and it'd be fine. Drow Stalker increased Drizzt damage by 200% for each Drow champion in the formation. So if you're running, full Drow, if at some point I don't think you can get full Drow, but you can get a good number of Drow now. You could go this for damage, right? It's the same 200%. You're choosing whichever is the bigger number. Okay. We're doing a Companions of the Hall formation, so of course we're going to go left spec. I really should just start referring to it as the Legend of Drizzt. Way better name. Alright, I think that's it. Yeah, you just get lots of damage upgrades after that, folks. Item-wise, pair of self-damage items. Imagine that. Icing Death and Twinkle. Self-damage. The effect of Icing Death is he takes more damage one. Then Companions of the Hall, he buffs that Mithril Hall stack. Ultimate attack, ultimate cooldown. Feat-wise, Gold Find. And at this point you're going, what? Yeah. Look. This is a holdover from the old version of the Companions of the Hall, where there was some gold on multiple people. There was some gold find on multiple different people. It has been consolidated. I don't know. Enjoy, I guess, if you want it. So just know, I mean, you could get like 25% times 10%, 27.5% gold. He's got self-damage, including a big whopper 120. He's got a buff Icing Death. Here's the Companions of the Hall damage. He's got an Int feat. This qualifies him for Strahd. He's got a Charisma feat that qualifies him for Zariel. And then he's got Mithril Hall stacks. And this one must have... Well, why is that still locked? I don't know. Was this in a recent Thayan Enclave? Anyway, Mithril Hall stacks. Those are the ones you want if you're running a Companions formation. That last one was forgot, so it was a Thayan Enclave. Okay, and it just hasn't cleared yet. All right, so I'm going to move Drizzt. I'm going to put Drizzt here. For reasons. So now we've got Brunor in the same column as Drizzt, buffing Drizzt, and Wolfgar's going to buff everybody behind him. Okay, now we got Regis back here. No, not Regis Philbin. Regis is a male halfling rogue, chaotic neutral. He covers multiple roles, healing, support, and gold find. They put all the gold on him. Which does make more sense. His base attack is Reluctant Stab. He reluctantly stabs the nearest enemy with his dagger. Okay. He doesn't want to, but he will. He has a passive chance to crit that's 20% as well. He has kind of the crit trigger stuff in his kit. Alright. Spec choices, Ruby Encouragement, either ahead or behind. It does the same thing. He either increases the damage of the champions in the column in front or the column behind. So flexible placement for him in a formation. You're trying to figure out where the best place for him in the formation is, and then you choose whichever of these. He has to be in front of or behind the DPS. Okay. We'll hit his other spec choice here. Ruby Weakness. Ruby Weakness comes in 3 flavors. You base it off what your damage dealer's base attack is. So it's either going to be ranged, melee, or magic. There is no click damage. Because again, this doesn't increase. Like, which one of these boosts click damage? We get that a lot. None of them. Read it. Read it. Ranged, melee, magic. This isn't a click damage boost. This is literally making your DPS hit harder. Because it debuffs the enemies. It increases the damage taken by all enemies when they're hit by this kind of attack. He is not a debuff champion. This is because his debuff effect is always on. They've decided, well, always on isn't something that gets a debuff roll. Look, you can argue with them about it. I'm just telling you how they've made the decision. So, ranged melee magic. We're doing Dritz here, so melee. Okay. Catty Breeze, spoiler alert, can also be a DPS. You would choose ranged if he's in the formation with her. Using it with anyone else that's a magic DPS, you get it. You get it. You get it. So you're just choosing like based off placement with his specs, and then based off the type of DPS, like the base attack. If it's a sword, it's melee. If it's an arrow, it's ranged. And if it looks like this, if it's a firebolt or a magic missile, it's magic. Okay. Speaking of his ultimate, he holds his ruby pendant up, damaging all enemies and stunning them for 5 seconds. So full screen effect. Additionally, effective ruby encouragement is tripled for 15 seconds. Okay. So AoE damage, 5-second stun, and 15 seconds of triple damage for the ultimate. Not super impressive here. I'll do it. Like, I hold it up. Boom. All right. Good. Bounty of the Hall. This is the gold find. Your formation gains 1 Mithril Hall stack. Regis increases your gold find bonus by 100% for each Mithril Hall stack you have, stacking multiplicatively. So, the more Mithril Hall stacks you have, the more gold this party is creating. The others are all based on damage, and he's like, no, I'm just here to make money. Which, fair. And early on, honestly, if you can get put this group together in the early game, look, gold find. Lots of gold find from a pushing group? Sure. Okay. Ruby healing. When Regis, specifically Regis, scores a crit, his ruby pendant pulses and heals all champions in the formation for 10 for each Mithril Hall stack the formation has. Look, I know it's not a lot, but it gets a buff and becomes what in this game is kind of a decent heal with enough stacks. Okay. Healing is not great in Idle Champions, but maybe one day. Maybe when the shielding, healing, and tanking 2.0 update happens. So, but crits, full party heal on crit. So getting him up to 100% crit chance means you're constantly healing. Even if you get him to 80, that's a lot of heals, right? He has a fast attack speed. Okay. Comparatively speaking, right? Ruby amplification increases the effect of ruby encouragement by 500% when Regis scores a crit. So there's another reason you'd like him to crit as much as possible. The effect can stack up to 15 times multiplicatively. 15 times of a 500%. That's a 6x. 15 times. Resets when changing areas. This is big. Folks, I'm going to pair this champion with I'm going to pair this formation with a couple champions. Like a sommelier pairs wine with dinner. There are a couple champions in the game. You've watched my tutorials. You already know who's coming. That are going to basically turn this party into crit monsters. and attack speed monsters, and it just really amplifies all the goodness of the Commands of the Hall. Right. Ruby Invigoration. Whenever a champion in the formation is critically hit by an enemy, because enemies, all enemies, have a 2.5% chance to crit. Okay? Whenever they're crit by an enemy, Regis stores up 1 charge of Ruby Invigoration. While he has at least 1 charge, his chance to crit is increased by 250%. And whenever he scores a crit, a charge is consumed. He can store up to 5 charges. So basically, when the tank gets crit, it's like, that hurts. He's like, whoop, time to heal. That's it. He's basically boosting his chance to heal and his chance to buff the party because a party member got crit. Nice. Okay. Item-wise, damage of all champions, because he's a support. Ruby healing, which is what boosts that healing from the 10 base, right? Ruby encouragement, Ruby weakness, so his spec choices. Ruby amplification, so he layers all the Ruby stuff, right? And then ultimate attack cooldown. Damage of all champions feats, healing feats, if you do want to go in. There's even a big whopper 60% one. Ruby encouragement, Ruby weakness. We got 2 strength, so he can qualify for Zerial. You can increase his crit chance by 10%. Remember, maybe we'll see. We're gonna build this out a little differently, and we'll look at it. I'm gonna throw these Mithril Hall feats in because we're trying to max these stacks. He also has a 20% crit chance. I'm just gonna go ahead and buy that, just so I have it. He should have had that by now. So even without anyone boosting his crits, he could get up to 50% on his own with feats. If you put Wolfgar in the spec, there's 60%. We're going to get this by other means, and then we'll see where we're at. Okay. All right. Caddy Bree. She's a knockout. Who's going to knock you out? Female human fighter, Cat Good. DPS support and debuffer. So she can be the DPS. In this formation, she's going to be an amazing support. Her main attack, long shot, she shoots the farthest enemy with her bow. So whoever's the furthest away. This has always made her a contentious DPS because she's only shooting the things at the right-hand side of the screen and not the things stacking up on your tank line. She now has a way to fix that, which we'll get to and which I highly recommend. Empty the Quiver is her ultimate, and it's one of the best ultimates. I love it so much. Caddy Bree shoots 6 arrows at once from her bow. Each enemy hit by her arrows has a higher chance of being crit and take more crit damage. And this is based on Caddy Bree's own crit chance and crit damage values. And it lasts for 30 seconds. Caddy Bree is the queen of crit. She's the queen of crit chance specifically now. I have to state that because Rosie Beestinger is now the queen of crit damage. But Caddy Bree is the queen of crit chance. If you'll note, I haven't leveled her up all the way yet. She's at a 580.6% chance to crit. For anyone going, wait, but that's over 100. What? In this game, when you get over 100, there is multipliers. You get bonus multipliers. Her crit damage is also solid. So basically, if I'm ulting now with my version of Caddy Bree, because your version will be different because she's got an item for that, everybody's guaranteed to crit. Everybody's critting on everyone. You get a crit, you get a crit, you get a crit. No, it's critting on the enemies that were hit. So this is like a boss killer, right? Everyone's going to crit on the boss. If the boss is the only thing left, the arrows are going to hit the boss. And for 30 seconds, everyone's critting on the boss and doing this kind of crit damage. Okay. I am going to cover this real quick. She has an item that boosts this, so the higher it gets, the more bonus damage you get, and she has a crit damage item. She is focused on crits. Okay. Caddy Bree, also adopted daughter of Brunor Battlehammer. Lore speak for a second. She has a dwarf glitch feat again, so counts as a dwarf. She has a dwarven skin. It's super confusing. Right here, I usually run this all the time. It's super confusing because she doesn't have a bow in her hand, and nobody can figure out what the hell she's throwing for her ranged attacks, but they must be little darts or something. Yeah. So this is Catti Brie when she was a fighter, specifically using Talmaril, the bow. Modern Catti Brie is a wizard, in case anybody's wondering. But this is back when she's a fighter. All right. She also gets a base crit hit chance of 20%. Not that you can tell. First ability, Powerful Draw. She deals additional damage to enemies the further they are from the formation. So again, and this is her DPS ability. 0% bonus when they're right up on the formation or less. 20% away or less. 1,000% bonus damage when they're right at where they're spawning in. Okay. Mark for Death. This is her debuff. Enemies hit by Catti Brie's arrows are marked. Take additional damage equal to Catti Brie's crit hit damage until the enemy is defeated. So this is a debuff that's based off the crit damage values that she's built, which means this has item level support, direct item level support to increase the debuff. Okay, that's the crit damage. Not only just helps you as a damage dealer, but it helps you as a support because it's increasing the debuff. So that item gets to do double duty. Grievous Wounds. Whenever an enemy that is marked is crit by any champion, they're stunned for 5 seconds. And the damage bonus of their mark is doubled. The effect can only occur every 10 seconds, and the damage bonus increase can stack multiplicatively up to 10 times. So the stun, it can affect every 10 seconds, but remember, the mark stays on forever until they die. So every 10 seconds you can stack, basically. You can add another stack, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. If you need it. Push Forward. Catti Brie increases the damage of herself, so self-buffer, because she can be a DPS, and all champions in front of her in the formation. This is why I threw her all the way in the back. She doesn't have to be all the way in the back. But she can be. Okay. So all champions in front of her by 50% each time she crits. So this one really kicks in once she hits 100% crit chance. When you're new, it doesn't happen all the time. Because again, there's an item and stuff for this. Right? But you can basically get it to the point where she's critting on every attack. Obviously. And so this stacks real fast. Real fast. Because it's each time she gets a crit. Now, she's a single target attacker. But I'm going to change this with her spec choice. There's a reason I love one spec choice and one spec choice only for her. She has multiple options and you choose what you want. But for me, there's one true way for Catti Brie. We'll get there. It affects this. So each time she gets a crit, it stacks multiplicatively up to 25 times and resets when she changes the areas. Okay, here we go. Piercing Arrow, Big Push, or Critical Family. I'm going to do these in reverse order. Critical Family additively increases the crit hit chance of all companions of the hall by 20%. All 5 of these champions. She's just like, here's 20% free crit chance. I mean, look, you don't have any other choice, and you're just using her to support, and you want as much crit as possible. Yeah, sure. Again, I'm going to fix the crit problem in a different way, but this is a tool for the job, and it can work very well. Okay. Big Push. This increases the base effect of Push Forward to 60% per stack, and Catti only loses half of her existing stacks when changing areas instead of all of them. So this is a way to give a little more of the push forward damage and lose, and it doesn't take as much to ramp up those stacks. This is an option. Not the option I choose, but it is a viable option. To be clear, all of these are viable options. I use Piercing Arrow 100% of the time. Catti Brie's damage is increased by 400%. So most people are like, that's her DPS spec. And sure, it's the second part of this that makes me use it all the time. And her arrows hit all enemies on their way to their target. So she has a line. This gives her a line-based AoE. Okay. Remember, she attacks the furthest enemy, so she's going to attack through where that enemy is. She's going to attack through anyone building up on the tank line. Remember I said she was a contentious DPS for a long time because she only attacked the back and not the enemies building up? Well, with this, she attacks all through, everything in a line. AoE, line-based wave clear. And the last sentence is key. Each enemy hit has a separate chance of being a crit. I'm at 100% crit chance. I crit every enemy in that line. Which means that stacking ability stacks off everything that I'm hitting real fast. I also debuff everything that I hit, right? So this makes sure that everything gets debuffed, everything gets crit every time she fires off, if they're in the path, right? If they're in the path. I love it. I love that kind of ability to just spread all the goodness that I'm looking for in this situation. That's why I use it all the time. You don't have to, but I love it. I love it. All right. I think we're... Oh, Mark of the Hall. Yeah, we got to get to her Companions of the Hall ability. Your formation gains 1 Mithril Hall stack. Caddy Bree increases the damage bonus for Mark for Death by 100% for each stack you have, stacking multiplicatively. So again, damage boost off Mithril Hall stacks. Items damage all champions. Push forward. Crit chance, crit damage. Mark for Death. And then alt attack cooldown. Okay. Feats, damage of all champions, self-damage, dwarf, and it buffs push forward for dwarves, but again, until we get more like a full dwarven formation, even with dwarf glitches, we can't put together a solid full dwarven formation. It is not as handy for me. Mark for Death, push forward, strength to get her into, strength has her qualify as a support for Krond. And then charisma is for someone. Maybe it's certainty? I don't remember. It's not needed for Zariel. It's a little too high for that. She has crit chance, self-crit chance, and self-crit damage if you want. Again, at some point you're not going to need this crit chance one anymore. The crit damage could, always be nice. 60% more on top of this is a nice boost. We're gonna add for Hall stacks to max them out. What are our Mithril Hall stacks looking at now? So currently we are at 18 Mithril Hall stacks in our party, which is a lot. So that's going to add another EO7 bonus for Caddy Bree. Let's go look at everybody else. EO7 for Brunor. Bounty of the Hall, EO7 Gold Find. Sure, right? Because that was the other bonus. E19 damage bonus for Dritz. This is why I said, you want to give Dritz some damage? Dritz needs more damage. Here's E19 from his party, from a full Mithril Hall party. Well, from a full Companions of the Hall party. We're not a full Mithril Hall party yet. We're about to get there. And Wolfgar throwing down EO7 bonus. Okay. So most of them are EO7 bonuses except Dritz. His is going to vary. There's a thing that boosts his. That's why his is up to E19. Okay. So this layout works for them. We're going to add a friend of the companions. Companion adjacent. The one champion in the game that can actually contribute to their Mithril Hall stacks. And it is Thibbledorf Quint. Quint is his last name. First name is Thibbledorf. Now you know why everyone just calls him Quint. He is the leader of the Gutbusters of Mithril Hall. The Gutbusters are Brunor Battlehammer's personal bodyguard, basically. They are battle ragers. And battle ragers are basically fighters who wear this spiky... The armor is spiked and is razor sharp on the edges, and they just run up and hug enemies. And then shake and then go into convulsions and basically wreck things that way. Yeah. So his famous battle cry is "Me King." Well, it's not even a battle cry. It's just that's what he says, "Me King," all the time. Spiked Hug is his melee attack. He lowers his head and rushes to a random enemy, using his armor as a weapon to cut and injure the enemy. He has a male dwarf barbarian, chaotic good, support, and debuff. At a point in history, Thibbledorf Pwent actually becomes a vampire. Just so you know, if you thought you knew the lore of the Mithril Hall gang, Vampire Pwent was the thing. His ultimate is called Round 'em Up. He dashes quickly around the area, rounding up all available enemies, and then stuns, damages, and inflicts a bleed effect on them. This is a magnet. It's what I like to call a magnet. We're not going to see it work. You'll see him move, but if you had a mass of enemies, he would basically magnet them all into the middle of his thing. Okay, like this. See this? Runs around, and then he leaves them all up here in a tight little circle, and they're all bleeding, and that's important. Because his passive is bleed. When Pwent attacks, he causes all enemies he damages to bleed, taking 0.5 seconds worth of bud damage every second for the next 20 seconds. This is a big deal. Bud base damage, because bud is based off your DPS, he basically becomes a secondary DPS when he hits things. It is only a half a second. It's not a lot of damage. But if your bud is high enough, that can be enough to remove armor. It's always going to be enough to remove hit-based segments, but if it's high enough, it can remove armor too. While an enemy is bleeding, attacks that target them have a 20% higher crit chance. Okay, additive. That means with Pwent in your formation, you only really need to boost everybody in the party up to 80% crit chance. Okay. 80% is fine. Right? So yeah, as long as he hits stuff, but we're gonna make sure that happens. If Pwent attacks an enemy that is already bleeding, the duration is reset. Now remember, the key to this is he attacks a random enemy. So he will eventually get everything over time, but the ultimate is the key because he'll then put a bleed on everyone. Can you smell that? Increases the damage of champions not adjacent to Pwent. Okay. You don't want him adjacent to your DPS. You don't. I know. I triggered chat because I put him right next to Dritz. I just wanted to see what people would say. So you want him non-adjacent. You want at least one space between him and your actual DPS. Okay. And Dritz is our DPS here. All right, Battle Rager. When Pwent attacks, if he attacks an enemy that has already been affected by the bleed, there's an 80% chance that he'll just attack again in somebody else instantly. So basically, he runs up, hits someone, goes, "Oh, I had bled you already." Then looks around, is there another target? And 80% of the time, he attacks every time. Had to. All right, Gutbuster recruits. So when a champion adjacent to Pwent, remember he doesn't want to be adjacent to the DPS. When a champion adjacent to Pwent scores a crit, Caddy Brief by chance? Pwent increases the effect of Can You Smell That by 50% and stacks multiplicatively 50 times. Stacks reset on area change. Look, Caddy Bree may not like the smell, but she likes the result, so she puts up with it. Caddy and Pwent, best friends in a formation, put them next to each other. Because again, with Caddy Bree in that line-based AoE, at 100% or higher crit chance, she's just critting groups of things and getting multiple stacks for him. Stacks him up so fast. So fast. Okay. All right, spec choices. Recruiting drive. Sense of Mithril Hall. It's a candle selection coming soon. Critical wound. So, recruiting drive. Gutbuster recruits now triggers when non-adjacent champions score crits. So, if for some reason in your formation you can't put Pwent next to a lot of people that are critting, because you ideally want him next to lots of people that are critting, right? To ramp that stack up fast. You can use recruiting drive. Okay. Sense of Mithril Hall increases the effect of Can You Smell That by 200%, so triple for each dwarf in the formation, stacking multiplicatively and includes himself. One day, Moradin willing, well, more like CNE willing, we'll have a dwarven formation, and this will be the spec of choice. This will be the spec of choice. And then Critical Wound. Attacks targeting enemies that Pwent has caused to bleed have a 40% chance to crit instead of 20. If you can only get things up to 60%, you could top off here, but we're not going to have an issue with this. We can go here just to boost the crit chance. We don't need this in the way that I'm going to build this. It's going to be fine. He'll stack up perfectly fine. And there's not enough dwarfs to, honestly, I mean, it's a 9x multiplier. We're going to go with Sense of Mithril. It's a 9x multiplier. And I could always, I mean, if we wanted, we could add more dwarfs by putting glitch feats in, right? All right. Here is your Mithril Hall group. Now, Pwent, I remember how I said he can contribute to them. He's a part of the Mithril Hall group. We haven't talked about that. Damage all champions. Can you smell that item? Gutbuster recruits. Ultimate attack, ultimate cooldown. Here's the thing. Pwent has Mithril Hall stack feats. So, he does not have an ability that's based off them. He can't contribute. I don't think. Oh, no, he can. Brunor me king. I'm sorry, Pwent. I forgot. Brunor me king. I'm losing it, folks. While not a member of the Companions of the Hall, Pwent fully supports them in their quests, like all good friends should. Your formation gains 1 Mithril Hall stack. Pwent increases the damage bonus for Can You Smell It by 100% for each Mithril Hall stack you have stacking multiplicatively. And he has feats for that. That's my bad, folks. Yes. So, once you get him up to 260, Brunor me king kicks in. Then you want to add these stacks, right? And now we've got a lot more stacks in the party. Okay. Now we're up to 22 stacks. So E08 is going to be the base for most people. Again, Dritz is going to vary. He's now up to 20 E22. So basically the number of stacks. He's going to be roughly close to whatever number of stacks in the party. Other feats per Pwent. You get damage all champions. You can increase the effect of his bleed. You can boost Can You Smell That? You can boost Gutbuster recruits. Oh, it's got another bleed one. All right. Honestly, I kind of want to. I just want to bleed. I just want a bleeding. I want bleeding in Mithril Hall, just to see. Yeah, it's now 1.5 seconds worth of bud damage, which honestly, that's much nicer. This would be much nicer for helping him chew through armored stuff with bleeds. Yeah, I'm down for that. I'm just gonna run him like this. No, we're already over the hour, but look, and I know there's a lot of questions. Well, there's 10 questions. This is the Companions of the Hall. Companions of the Hall. This is a Mithril Hall group. I want to name this correctly. This would be a Mithril Hall group because you're building around Mithril Hall stacks. This is a Companions of the Hall group. Okay. Mithril Hall is really the fantastic way to build this. And because we're talking about the Companions of the Hall, and I want people to kind of get an idea of like a really solid, not the only way to build a Companions of the Hall group, but a really solid way to build this. We're going to add 2 champions to this formation, because after this, you can add whatever else is good for you. We're going to add Strongheart, and we're going to add Duke Ravengard. Okay. I talk about them a lot. I am in love with this combination. I really think that just opened up so much opportunity for so many different, like a wide variety of melee DPS champions to become incredibly strong, and formations, melee based formations, and equally as importantly, crit based formations. This combination creates an incredible amount of destructive damage. I call Duke Ravenguard, Strongheart, and any melee champion I now call the Holy Trinity. Because if you just build those two champions plus a melee DPS, you have an incredibly strong damage dealer without needing tons of item levels or amazing gear. I've done this on a new player account with like blue gear and like average item level of 50. Absolutely wrecks. Okay. In this formation, what we're doing two things. First off, I'm going to level up Duke Ravenguard. I'm not going to go fully into them, into everything they do, but they're basically, they want to be with they only work as a buffer for melee champions. Okay, and they're based around crits, again. Which is one of the reasons why they work so well in this formation. So the more melee champions, the better, and you need to be using a melee DPS. Hey, we got Dritz. Critical teamwork. Whenever a champion with a melee base attack gets a crit, doesn't count Catty Bree. But that's okay. She can take care of herself. Increases his buff and additively increases the odds that all champions in the formation get crits by 1%. Can stack up to 50 times, and there's a feat that makes it stack up to 60. This ability adds 60% crit chance to everyone in your party at max. Okay. Now remember, I want to get people up to, I would like to get people to 100, but with Print in the party, I don't need to. So many people have that 20% passive that Quint, at the 20% that he grants to things that he has bleeding, puts everyone at 40. Duke Ravenguard takes everyone to 100. Anything else, gravy on top. Okay. Now I could, and I will, boost melee attacks by another 20%, because why not? Because it also boosts crit damage by 1,000. Okay. If I wanted more crowd control, I could go with his left spec, but I just like to make sure everybody's critting everywhere all the time. Okay. So this is going to make it real easy to get to 100%, real fast to get to 100% crit chance, and go a little above. And remember, when you're above, you get a bonus multiplier. I'm not going to worry so much about his placement. There's some placement cues here. Look, just figure out the best spot for him in the formation. Just make sure he's in the formation. He is going to feed crits for everybody. Now remember, Regis heals everyone off a crit, right? And this stacks on the same area. So Regis heals everyone off a crit right now. Regis crit chance is up to 79%. Wolfgar stuns off a crit. Wolfgar stun chance is now climbing on the way to 100. He's at 90. That's real good. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. It's going to get to 100%. He's just going to stun on every hit, which means he's ramping his buff on every hit. Everybody's ramping. Everybody is kung fu ramping. I don't know. Is crit chance ramping? There we go. Everybody was crit chance ramping. All right. Now, why is Strongheart in here, folks? Strongheart, melee champion. Already up to 100% crit chance. The only thing he buffs adjacent, he does some stuff. Blah, 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 blah. Righteous Might. I'm just going to blah, 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 blah to the important part. Righteous Might. So critical teamwork off Duke Ravenguard and Righteous Might on Strongheart are the two pieces of the puzzle that mesh together and make a melee champion with whatever melee champion you add in amazing, right? Whenever Strongheart lands a crit, we're now at every attack. For the next 20 seconds, he buffs his main ability by it at a value and increases healing, because he's got a heal, of another ability by 100%. So he's going to be pumping out a lot of healing. and reduces the base attack speed cooldown of himself and adjacent champions by a half a second. Okay? Now, this isn't just, hey, if he does this, this lasts for 20 seconds. It's whenever he crits. So every time he crits, he applies a stack of this. A multiplicatively stacking buff with pre-stack item support. A multiplicatively stacking heal boost. And an additively stacking attack speed reduction. The only reason he has not reduced his attack speed to animation speed cap is because there aren't enough enemies on the screen to constantly be attacking. Okay, that's the only reason. As you get to a high enough area where enemies are just building up on the tanks and things aren't dying right away, he can get up to like 17, 18 stacks of this. Multiplicatively stacking. It is godlike. Okay. Spec choices. He can boost damage of his ability based on good champions. He can increase the damage bonus of something for each event, buff, or boon. In this formation, though, he could be an honorary member of the Companions of the Hall if he wanted. They don't have something that is going to care about that. There are some affiliations that just buff based off the number of affiliation members. The Companion of the Halls want Mithra Hall stacks. So this is 5 stacks. So this would be 5 stacks here of 150% for each one. We do have 6 good. I'm going to go with the good, but I just want you to know. Yeah. It's interesting. And it's a big deal in some places. Okay. So yeah. Really, it's all down to righteous mind. How many stacks you're going to get. And this feeds into that. Now they've both got feats that can crit more and do stuff and blah, 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 blah. But the key is just putting them together in this formation. Look at this. We're getting EO5 heals. This EO5 heal is from Strongheart. Obviously, you'd be like, well, shouldn't you be healing the tank? And like, maybe. But also, having all these people back here attacking more often is fantastic for this formation, right? Because all of these people want to attack as much as possible. Look, enjoy. It's not as big of a, the honorary member isn't as big of a boost for the companions as would be for others. You can do whatever you think mathematically works best for you, or just thematically, and have fun with it. Lots of other combinations. We could add 2 more champions to this. There's a lot of other things you would want to like. I shout out to Rhea, who buffs based off whether you're lawful or good, and if you're both, it's an even bigger buff. Well, Dritz is lawful good. So Rhea, this is one of those places where Rhea can really come in and do some damage. Miria for survivability, or another tank option if you need multiple tanks. Yeah, that's really what you're looking for, is either some survivability or more damage. Jarlaxle, obviously later on in the books, becomes a friend of the Companions of the Hall. Doesn't fit into this group at all. Artemis, originally, I know he's got an ability that references Catti-brie and Dritz, but not a member of the Companions. Later on becomes a friend, but the version in the game does not work with this party. Yeah. There you go, folks. All right, we're going to take a short musical interlude. I wonder what song I queued up. Be right back.
Bruno, battle hammer, charging on the field, battle wave the banner. They know will never yield, so they run with the clamor, yeah. Bruno, battle hammer, ranks closing, but the whole line shatters. Hail of arrows, you can hear the clamor, yeah. Their lights can't hold against the king so bold. Make him proud of the clans of throne. Remember, I'll swim there. So raise your hand to the great and strong and king. So say we all. Ages fang, hammer of the gods, all the heroes sang. Gift for the sun and blaze by his hand, yeah. Gone too grim, lifetime of searching was the doom of him. He sacrificed the nine, the halls of multitude, yeah. Kings can't hold against the king's own. Make him proud of the country road. Lying around, with their fire. Dying savior of the little home. Remember, I swim there. So raise your hand to the great and strong and king. So say we are. To the greatest Roman king, so say we are.
All right, this is the original acoustic version of The Greatest Dwarven King. You can hear the fully produced version in the jukebox. It was in Volume 1, very first song. Good times, good times. All right, folks, I'm going to hit up the questions list. We got 10 questions. If you want your question answered, you need to put question colon in front of it. If you've been asking questions and you didn't put question colon in front of it, it didn't get grabbed, most likely. All right. Sandbox JJ, I already did what you wanted me to do. Can you go over unofficial members of these companions of the halls, like Pwent? I did, yeah. There are no other unofficial members. I want to be clear. Not in the snapshot that this game uses. I really wish... Yeah, no, I think they'd have to do it as just a completely separate champion. And I don't know that they'll ever be like, well, we're going to have two of the same champion in the game that do different things. Because Artemis has, personal growth in a character arc and becomes a valued friend and trusted companion, as does Jarlaxle. There are more characters I would love to see them add. Obviously, the dwarves, Athergate as a dwarf, the Boulder Shoulder brothers, all of which have been, I think, in 5e books, as well as Fist and Fury, the Tanabrich's sister, the tween? No, that would be inappropriate. The twin queens of Gauntlgrim. They both married Brunar. Brunar has 2 wives, folks. He married twins. Greatest Dwarven King. Yeah, I mean, things like that. I would love all of those dwarves in the game. Unfortunately, we don't have any of them. So we get the early book versions of these characters. There is a skin. There's a shout out skin. Where's it at? Rukia. If you were like, Rukia, Caddy Bree, what is that? Rukia is... I'm going to spoil some things from stories that came out years ago. Whoops. Everyone but Dritz died and was reincarnated. And Caddy Bree was born to a southern family, so she has darker skin, grew up in the desert, and as a wizard. And her name was Rukia, and that's her parents gave her that name. Her new parents gave her that name until she finally returned to the companions and went back to being Caddy Bree. Also, Regis. Do we have... we don't have a Regis. Man. Regis actually becomes a very brave and daring individual instead of the coward. He decided after he was reborn he needed to be a more contributing member to the party. Fighter. Yeah. Yeah, he needs a skin like that too. Wolfguard just got reborn as basically the barbarian he always was. So it's, nothing really changed there. He's a big bad barbarian. I can't remember what Bruner's original name was, but he was just like, no. He just Bruner Battlehammer. What you talking about? Eventually, and then yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe one day. I'll see more of those characters, or at least the skins as shoutouts. Lurking Rider, if there's a time, can you talk about the Reddit post you made alongside the community regarding things Dritz could be the leader of, since he's not the leader of the companions? I don't know, maybe. I'd have to find it. And do you think, and more appropriate to this, do you think, since their rework, do you think they're a genuinely good base formation to complete adventures and variants in Icewind Dale? I think they're a solid base, and I think when you add Strongheart and Duke Ravengard, I mean, by the time you get there, it really is going to be one of those things that's like once you get into the medium difficulty campaigns, a lot of stuff comes down to, have you been investing at least some item levels up to at least 50 item levels in your pushing group? Do they have blue gear? Do you have your patron perk? Do you have some patron perks? Do you have a Modron core? Right? Like, a lot of the power is going to come from other places, and then you do need to have some base power on your champions. And if you've ignored them, then it's not going to be good. The nice thing here is Dritz as an evergreen champion will just be soaking up item levels. Like, look, from all the chests you open, I'm at 19,000 almost on this one, right? I'm over 19,000 here. Yeah. So Dritz will be a very strong DPS for you if you're doing this. You'll need those feats. But it is a nice solid formation. And a lot of times, look, it is very nice to figure out like a base of a solid group of champions, half of what you're going to need, that you can then build around in everything. At least you'll know you have a tank, you'll have a DPS, you're going to have 3 supports, and one of them can heal. Instead of like always wondering like, oh, who am I going to get this time, right? Rough Rider, what's your highest bud using Companion's Focus Formation? I haven't used a Companion's Focus Formation since the Holy Trinity came out. So right now we're at 397, and I'm not maxed, and we're not going to be able to max because we're nowhere near my wall. I mean, I don't see any reason why this can't be in the 450 to 500 range. I don't have a core in. I don't have a Modron core in, so I feel like we're doing real good. I don't even have this heavily legendary. I think. Well, Dritz has level 5. Do they have multiple level 5s? Yeah. It's always hard to say with legendary effects. It's always hard to know where the power is coming from. Shadowlandman, I saw a couple of people ask this. Is there any advantage to taking crit chance over 100%? Yeah. Again, once you're over 100%, as we see with Catty Bree here, she's up to over 1100%. You're getting a multiplier. Now, I know when you crit, you're getting a crit damage boost to your damage, right? But you're getting a multiplier on top of that. And it used to show up, and I don't know if it does anymore, as like if it was 110% when you get the multiplier, it would say like X2 next to the crit, and then X3 and X4, and like the numbers would go up. So you're getting a multiplier on top of this. So just even more damage. Even more brutal damage. Man, I haven't even been outside today. All right. Lucky Rider, with the addition of Strongheart, Duke Ravengard, now Rosie's weird because Catty Bree's still the queen of crits. Yes, she's the queen of crit chance. Rosie Beestinger is the queen of crit damage. So in the way that Catty Bree can get her crit up super high, Rosie Beestinger can get her crit damage up real high, in part by over leveling. I think I had her. I think I can get way higher, but I had Rosie Beestinger's crit damage at like E15, which is ridiculous. So she's a great combination with the Holy Trinity, right? Because you can get her up to 100% crit chance, and then her crit damage just destroys stuff. Yeah. Generic questions or more generic questions. Well, this one. With the songs during the break and at the end credits, she's a knockout, the greatest Dwarven King, and or Legend of the Rager. Look, I thought about starting the stream off with the greatest Dwarven King, and then having she's a knockout, and then ending on Legend of the Rager, but I always start with the Idle Champions theme song. So we only get 2 out of the 3 songs for this group. General questions, sir. Bebop, is it possible to have 6 familiars on the board and make them not attack? I just want them to collect stuff. Well, here's the thing. While these are currently attacking, they're not doing any damage. Like, they're doing 70 damage, which isn't going to kill anything, because the enemies here have E52 health. So yes? As long as you're not leveling up click damage, they're not, like, they might be doing a point of damage, but that doesn't mean anything, right? What they'll do is they apply like a slow effect, like a bit of a stun effect, which is why the enemies aren't leaving. They aren't really damaging them. It's the champions that are killing them. So yes, 6, is gonna kill the distractions. But if here's the thing, yeah, if you have paid for something and you have this, like if you have a fire breath potion running, or if you have this, if I were to turn this on, suddenly they'd be doing damage based off my bud, and they'd be killing everything instantly. Watch. Everything dies before anyone even gets out to hit it. Now they're killing things. But if I turn this off, no, they're not. Yay. This is why you have the option to turn stuff on and off. So like if you're in a variant where you're taking like constant damage, like every second you're taking % max health damage, you turn this off because health is not your friend at that point, right? It's just increasing the damage, making it harder to heal or harder to shield. So you would turn that off. I have these off because I have Briv Gem Farm, and I got to keep things working correctly. Oh yeah, that's right. Point's got some buffs going on right now. All right. Yeah. They added that because we basically screamed at them. What? You're screwing up everything. Hitting that buff actually kills you faster. Why would we want that? And they gave us the ability to turn it off. Tamui, do you have any tips for getting favor and pushing in the new Vecna and Fortune Wheels campaign? Anyway, so here's, I want to go, we might as well break this down for everybody again. Sword Coast is, I want to describe the campaigns to you real quick in case people don't understand how these work. Sword Coast is a never-ending campaign. So what does that mean? It means there is no end point to the stories they can tell here. This is, if you were playing D&D, this is your main campaign. And these are the side campaigns you might dip off and do, and they're going to have an end to their story, and then you're going to go back to this one, right? If you want to think about it that way. So Sword Coast has an ever-changing difficulty level. Like, as you're going along, things start ramping up in difficulty level, because the content was added, like, alongside this, and then later alongside this, and alongside this. So, depending on when it got added to the game, it can be the difficulty of all of this stuff in the Sword Coast. Which is why you only dip in here real quick, grab Dritz and Underdeep Cartography, get your tier 2 blessing, and then bounce to Tomb of Annihilation. Okay, Tomb of Annihilation, easiest campaign in the game, and alongside Waterdeep Dragon Heights, these are the easy campaigns. Like if you're going to give them a difficulty rating, currently, in the current state of the game, these are the easy campaigns. This one, variable difficulty. Easy. Okay. Medium difficulty, Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, Wild Beyond the Witchlight, Light of Xerxes. And as you go down this list, they get more difficult. Like these are easy. This is the easiest. This is the next. This one is a little harder, but still easy. Medium difficulty, things ramp up. more difficult, more difficult, more difficult. Okay. Turn of Fortune's Wheel, hard. Just there's a hard line drawn here that this is the current state of hard campaigns in the game. And honestly, if they ever ramp up and then Vecna actually gets a little bit easier, in my opinion, but in terms of the ability, well, a little bit less frustrating. Let me put it that way, because you can earn more favor here than you can here. But this is a hard campaign and a frustrating campaign because whereas all these other campaigns have like, as you go further, the amount of gold enemies drop goes up. Turn of Fortune's Wheel looks like this. There is a slight incline. It is the kind of incline you would only notice in a department store parking lot in January after an ice storm, and you parked your car and came to a full stop, and then it started sliding sideways into the car next to you. It's that kind of a slope. Okay? It's almost imperceptible. It's incredibly frustrating. It's incredibly frustrating. There's better gold find in Vecna, but the health scaling, gold find is like this, and the health scaling goes like this. Love it. That's how you deal. That's how you increase difficulty. Health, not. You increase frustration by reducing gold find, right? Because the health is doing this and the gold find's doing this, all right? So here's what you got to remember. You have to learn there's a new way of gold finding that a lot of us call dirty gold farming. I know some people call it like bud farming. I get it, but those people don't understand the deep lore of the game. Things get names based off the progression of the game over time. It's a very specific analogy, but it worked, right? I grew up. Look, when I started driving in the Pacific Northwest. I took like a winter driving skills class. It was the best thing my parents ever got me for Christmas, because I learned how to safely drive in the rain, in the snow, and in the ice. Yeah. And one of the things they demonstrated was, here's what it looks like when you park your car on what looks like a flat surface in the ice. And we were just doing, and I was like, this is trippy. All right. Dirty gold farming with 2 R's. There's a form of dirty gold farming, for Turn of Fortune's Wheel. Well, really for everything. Once you learn this, you can apply it to your entire journey. I used it on a new player account from day one, right? Well, not day one, but once I had enough champions to build, to increase gold find in one group over a pushing group. And basically, it requires you building a pushing group and saving that formation, and then building a gold find formation, like a gold find group, and saving that formation. And a gold find group is basically just a bunch of champions that are in the formation that boost gold find straight up. Just straight up give you lots of gold find. Not on hit, not on kill. Just, they boost your generic gold find. So, and what you do is you use a fire breath potion, or that boon that I had turned off, and you set your bud real high with your pushing group, and then you hotkey into the gold farming group, and you basically soak up gold like a vacuum cleaner. Feels a little dirty. That's why we call it dirty gold farming, because you used to have to do so much work to get gold via like Azaka farming, or even way back in the day, Makos bombing. And now it's just super easy with this formation, and it feels a little dirty. That's why we call it dirty gold. That will allow you to gain far more gold as you're progressing and level up your champions. That's the only thing that's going to get you more gold. You're still not going to get the same kind of gold as you could have gotten in the previous campaign. Just not. That's a lever that they turned down, right? There's no fixing that. A little easier here, but when you get to these campaigns, your pushing power is what they're trying to impress upon you, is that your pushing power is no longer determined by the gold that you have. Early campaigns, easy campaigns, it's all about the gold. It's all about the Benjamin, baby, up here. And that is like the main lever. You're just moving to try to get like the dial you're spinning higher and higher and higher to get more damage, because early on that's exactly it's the easiest thing early on to get yourself damaged. But there are lots of other dials that you have to spin and levers you have to flip to get power in this game over time. And by the time you get to the hard campaigns, what they're trying to impress upon you is you better have invested in these other methods of power and these other forms of power, or else you're not going anywhere. Right? It's a hard stop. It is a hard stop. If you've not done this, you can't do this. Okay. Yeah. So like I came to Turn of Fortune's Wheel, I had invested heavily across all of what I call pillars of progression. I wasn't getting much gold, but I was like 1,300 areas deep. Like I had no problem completing the content in terms of doing the adventures and variants. I just had no money because my power is coming from all of those other places. Right? Same thing here, but you can earn better gold here. So like my Turn of Fortune's Wheel, I'm up to E58. This is favor conversions from events, time gates, Trials of Mount Tiamat. They all just get dumped here. The highest I got was E28. That was only after learning to Dirty Gold Farm. Prior to that, it was like E14 or 17. Right? Dirty Gold Farming got me up into the 20s. I think you could probably get with really good gear and itemization on like Gold Find Champs, you could probably get into the 30s. I was not there yet. No, and then I just converted all the time here. This Vecna favor is from just Dirty Gold Farming. I haven't converted anything over here. So I can at least get to E40s, which is fine for now. Right? So, yeah, I mean, E12. I was in the E12 range. I was pushing to like, area 1,200, 1,400, somewhere in there. Because favor wasn't the determining factor of my ability to push. It was all the other power. Right? So, yeah. And the more you convert into it, the higher you can get that. I don't know that it really matters to get too much. You just need enough to buy the blessings. Right? Nothing about those two campaigns is affects the legendary system, so you don't have to worry about getting super high values. Cronenlaw, I've been working Dark Urge and Karlach as DPS champions. But Fen, even with very, very low gear scores, has been keeping up with my DPS roster fairly well. We're going to talk about... We're going to have a conversation. Should I be considering her as a main DPS going forward with Cass? Oh, folks, yeah, Cass. Folks, Cass the Bloody. Isn't it the Bloody Handed? Isn't that his thing? Or Cass the Betrayer is what... No, Cass the Bloody Handed. That's what they're calling him. Coming to Idle Champions. Wednesday. New vampire champion. BFFs with Vecna. Oh wait. They were once. So should I be considering Fen as my primary DPS with Cass coming up, or should I try sidelining her? When should I start pushing her away? Here's the thing. I know there's a lot of people who are like, this is the mathematically strongest champion. You should ignore everything else. I'm not that person. I never will be. But I want to explain some things here. You got some explaining to do. You are describing this like, wow, my Fen doesn't have the same gear as... It feels like doesn't have the same power as Dark Urge and Karlach, but it seems to be doing comparable DPS. Yeah, look, most of the champions in this game, first off, most of the DPS champions in this game, at what I'm going to call lower gear levels, so less than 1,000, tend to be fairly comparable. They can carry their own weight as a DPS champion if you build a formation around them. Especially if you're comparing someone to Dark Urge. The Dark Urge, people mad again, but look, that's what I exist to do, I guess, is not a great DPS champion in terms of doing damage. The Dark Urge is a flexible DPS champion. He can go in every variant in the game. With that flexibility comes lower DPS. A lower DPS potential. Because they can't just create They're trying to stay away from creating a one DPS to rule them all, right? There is a trade-off with the Dark Urge. Okay. Karlach, so I want to play that straight up just Dark Urge. Karlach damage is dependent upon her ultimate and stacking and being in her left specialization choice, Berserker, and her ultimate maxing out at 100 stacks of rage. That is when she is at her power max. And if you are not getting her there, her damage can be comparable to a Dark Urge or a Finn. But if you can get her there, it can surpass. Given equal gear, right? And even having like the Dark Urge can have. I had a Dark Urge with epics. I had a Karlach in blues, and Karlach at full power beat the Dark Urge every time, hands down. What you're saying is Finn at even lower, what feels like lower gear is beating them to, or being comparable. And I feel like, yeah, with the Dark Urge, sure, I could see that, because again, his strength is his flexibility. And I don't know if your Karlach is ramping up as strong. Again, Karlach is where I coined the term Holy Trinity with Duke Ravengard and Strongheart. Those three, real strong. But really, the Holy Trinity is just Duke Ravengard, Duke Ravengard, Strongheart, and any melee DPS. Some are better than others, right? Yeah. So just understand, there's a reason you're seeing these comparable things, and understand why, right? Now, Cass coming up is going to be a DPS themselves. So you would be using Finn as a support. I want to be clear. Cass is a DPS healer, which is an interesting combination, but kind of makes sense once you read their kit. You can find their blog post here. I'll link it in chat. Yeah. So if you were going to be using Finn would then just be supporting in a supporting role to Cass. Cass really only coming in to be a DPS. But with the boons coming up for October, or with the augments for October, if you're able to complete tier 2 or higher, Cass is going to come in pretty strong. The new augments, there was an augment preview. When you unlock a champion in the event now, just unlock them. They're going to immediately get all white gear. Like, they're going to immediately have all 6 pieces of gear at white level 1. I know that may seem like, well, that's pointless. It's not. That means more duplicate item levels. Now, maybe not a ton, but still, that means it's easier to get them to blue or better in an event. Right? Fewer electrums or silvers to get them to blue or better, right? The bigger deal, though, is that if you complete tier 2 variants and above, every variant is going to give you boosted item levels straight up. They're straight up going to boost your item levels for every variant you complete that's tier 2 or higher. And it's a lot, folks. I think if you complete all of tier 2, I think I did the math, and I want to say it's like you would end up with 50 average item levels, which is fantastic. That's what I try to tell people. Look, if you're a newer player, just getting like early game and the mid game, like transition, you should be getting your pushing team up to 50 average item levels. Well, just finishing tier 2 is going to give you that in this next event. And you're going to see kind of the real power of champions and what item levels can do with champions. If you complete tier 3, I think it gets you up to, that's going to boost you up to like average item level 100 for free. I mean, just for completing that with it before opening the chests. And then if you're strong enough to tier 4, you know, the rewards kind of wane as you go up, because tier 4 is like 150 average item levels. But hey, I'll take, as somebody who's in tier 4, in the tier 4 power curve, I'll still take free 150 average item levels. Absolutely. But the big impact is for people who can complete the tier 2 stuff. You're going to get a nice strong champion. So Cass is coming into the game hot. He's coming in hot. Yeah. Blizzle, if you already own a golden epic item and you purchase a wild offer that contains the same one, you lose the second. Yeah, you can't get a dupe golden. It shouldn't even be possible. You shouldn't be offered a wild offer for the same golden epic that you already have. Shouldn't. If that happens and you have bought it thinking you would get some benefit from it, submit it as a ticket to support. It shouldn't be doing that. I am Toast. What's your opinion on the new Vecna blessings, mainly the health increasing one? Yeah, so we got some new we had Vecna like Vecna Eve of Ruin part 3 in story content. And we always get new blessings on the odd numbers. So part 1 gives us tier 1. Part 2 gives us tier 2. Part 3, excuse me, gives us tier 2. Part 5 will give us tier 3, right, etc. Until, part 9 is going to give you tier 5. That's the last one. And then the story ends at part 10. So we get increased damage of all evil champions locally in this campaign. Increase the favor earned from resets. This isn't as bad here. Because you can push for favor here. It was utterly pointless here. It should have been increased fortune's favor earned from conversion over here. Justin, you're wrong on that. This is not going to ever improve. Should have been from conversions over here, and that would have made this a fantastic thing. But yeah, earn favor from resets, and then increases the base health of all champions. This is, this could be good or bad. This is one of those where if they put in a variant that does pulsing damage based off the max health, that you'll want to reset your blessing and turn this off, right? And then the global is Cleanse Soul, which is increasing the healing received by all champions by 50%. And this is everywhere in the game. This on its own does not fix healing, right? And idle champions. They've slowly been changing the health share features of tanks to also boost healing received by everyone affected by 25%. These combinations are better. And if this was a Sword Coast blessing, early game healing is joyous and triumphant. But this is late game and doesn't really mean anything. What the cool thing about this is, once you pick this up, by the time you pick this up, you will also have Mertz perk up, which also increases healing tanks received by 50%. Once you pick that blessing up and you have perk up, you never, ever, ever need to go right spec Briv ever again. He's just going to be, because that boosts the healing he receives, right? You can run his middle spec for deep pushes or left spec for gem grinds, right? Because at that point he's always going to be healing 100% of the damage. So that's a change. And there's some things like it's going to boost. It might help Carlock a little bit with her survivability because she has a spec if you're trying to run her as a tank with her self heal. It's going to make her a little better. I don't know that it solves her problem. I think solving her problem would be changing her Ceramorphosis to boost her, to do a base level of health share, but then boost her health based off the number of tadpoles in the party. That would make her a better tank, but yeah. Griff has a right spec. Some people already build their formations so that they don't use the right spec, but this one makes it more generic. You never have. I use the right spec all the time because I'm not always pairing him with, when I'm deep pushing, because I'm not always pairing him with people that are going to boost the healing to not need it. That's going to be it, folks. That's going to be it for today, folks. Oh, I see a comment here. This wasn't a question, it was a statement, but it's not entirely accurate. I want to be clear. The giving everybody white items will be a problem for using Electrum since they look for gearless champions first. It's still not a problem for that. Because yes, they look for ungeared champions first, but then they look at the overall rating of your gear, like do you have greens or blues? If other people have blue gear or better already, the electrums are still going to target that white geared champion. They're going to look to normalize the gear up to that level, and then it'll go full random. So it doesn't change anything. It just, what it means is it's going to take you fewer electrums to get to that normalized point than it normally would, which is a positive thing in the modern era of the game where we're not getting as many electrums. We still get plenty of electrums, but we don't get as many as we used to. And some people struggle with that. Not as great now. Like newer players are fine. I mean, when we have all these cool augments coming in to help them out. But having all of those, like that massive amount of electrums we used to get every week, was fantastic for new players. So they're finding ways to get you back into that again. I already hope that this white base gear and these item levels become permanent, like multi-tier now is. Multi-tier is now a permanent part of all events. It is just a base functionality. Just because I think it would really help with the early learning curve, getting people teaching people, hey, this is the power of item levels, which is something that is really not taught well enough in game. With in-game stuff, really requires people outside of the game telling you, hey, you need to put item levels on that champion or they're not going to perform. I'm really hoping this changes the experience for a lot of early game and mid-game players. All right. I'm heading out, folks. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for asking the questions. Thank you, Jay, for grabbing the questions. This is the last stream on this channel for the weekend. Streams will return here usually on Tuesdays. I say usually because, holidays and things happen. However, I stream over on my channel, Twitch TV/Gaarawarr. I'm gonna put this over here. Twitch TV/Gaarawarr. I stream there currently 5 days a week. Mondays and Wednesdays, I do a show called Idle Chatter where we play Idle Champions and we talk about all kinds of stuff. But you can always come over there and chat with me about Idle Champions then. But you can ask Idle Champions all the time. I'm always open to answering questions about Idle Champions. But I also stream on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. We play other games. Currently, like today, we are wrapping up. I'm just calling it now. Last day for God of War, the 2018 version, as we've called our Gaarawarr streams. Boy, been fun, but we're done. We're done. We're gonna be done after today. So come hang out over there. That stream will be starting up in about an hour-ish. I gotta go get lunch. Saturday, that means it's root beer, churros, and a burrito. It's my Saturday. That's my Saturday lunch because it's good. So yeah, the song we're gonna go out on is for Not the Leader. First song was for the leader. The second song is for Not the Leader. This is The Legend of the Ranger. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Child of the underdog, ranger of the dale, many who have known him proudly tell his tale. His purpose will not waver, shall never bend. Years of pain and struggle, journey to